everybody, welcome back. If you're new here, hi, I'm Mercury, and today it's a book review kind of a day. Yes, I finished another book. So I finished reading The Butcher's Daughter, and that is by David Demchuk and Connie Leigh Clark. Now, The Butcher's Daughter was very, very interesting. So, if you are familiar with the tale of Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street, and you enjoy that story, you will probably, at least for me, enjoy The Butcher's Daughter. So the idea behind The Butcher's Daughter is it is the backstory of Mrs. Lovett, and it is told via correspondence. So essentially, it lets us in on what made Mrs. Lovett Mrs. Lovett, and where that, intersects with when she meets with Sweeney Todd, the pie shop, all of that, the backstory. So it starts after the events of Sweeney Todd, but it's told from the perspective of her looking back and reflecting on her life. And there is an outside party who she is corresponding with via letter, and it is told via these letters back and forth. And she is telling the tale that led her to where she is in her life. And it's so interesting because, with these characters, they're so rich in the moment in terms of the trials and the struggles and what they're dealing with. It's a financially difficult time period. It is a time period in which women do not have a lot of freedoms. They are very dependent, and she is forging her way forward in this world, and in some ways takes lead in what happens in the tale of Sweeney Todd. It was her idea of how to make these pies, right? She is a very powerful female lead character, for better, for worse. We are talking about a horror tale here. But in looking back, we get, in the original story, we get Sweeney's backstory of being Benjamin Barker and, how the events and the trauma unfolded that led him down that path. But we don't know much about Mrs. Lovett until now. Now we do. And it's one of those, you thought what happened to Benjamin Barker was bad. What happened to Mrs. Lovett is worse. It's very difficult to read. There should be a lot of trigger warnings on this book, around things like essay, body modifications, just all sorts of stuff. But again, this is a horror novel, so take it at that, right? This is not Happy Unicorns and Flowers story. This is the tale of what led this woman to be able to be party to these pies. And it really goes in depth into her experience and what happened to her and the lack of supports that she had and how she escaped and how she survived and continued to survive. And there were some differences between the tale of Sweeney Todd that I'm familiar with and how things unfolded in The Butcher's Daughter. And I need to go back and see where the story originates from. The version I am most familiar with is the version that's been made into a play for Broadway. That's the base story that I have to go by. But I think I need to look back and find out if there's modifications that the play, liberties the play took from the original works. I have to do a little more research, but I'm curious if anyone has any insight into that. Feel free, put that in the comments, let me know. But the way Sweeney Todd comes to interact with Mrs. Lovett was different than what I'm used to from the play. Mrs. Lovett is clever. She's clever and she's a survivor. And she is smart. She learns from every trial, from every opportunity, from everything she faces in her life. She is like a sponge and she's learning, and she kind of like files it into a mental vault. You know, it's funny. There's this book I always refer back to, totally unrelated to this story, 1Q84. I love this book. But in that book, there was a line that always resonates with me, which was something to the effect of, once you put the piece on the playing field, you have to do something with it, right? So it's like there are these things in The Butcher's Daughter that are revealed or put into the playing field of the story early on. What are you going to do with it? They're out there now. What are you going to do with it? There are full circle moments where things that are, you know, put into the mythos early, we come back to later on, and it's like, there's where she got that skill from. There's where she learned that thing from. She picked that up here. Yeah, like these little tiny details and some big details. It shows the origin story, and it's like, you go back here, grab that, bring it over here, and it's utilized. And very much so in the story is like, once something is put into play, it's gonna come full circle. It's going to come full circle in this book. And I really appreciated that. I didn't feel like there were loose ends. I didn't feel like I had unresolved bits in this story. I felt that the things I wanted to know about had resolution by the time I got to the end of the story. So I really enjoyed the journey that this took me on, because it was also, like I said, it was a retrospective. It was like as if the character had already gone through all these trials and is reflecting back, and in doing so is able to put lessons learned in the way that she's telling the tale, right? So it's not just like, this is happening now, this is happening, and oh my gosh, this is happening, and it's, this all happened, and I'm stronger for it. I'm coming out the other side, and we know I survived this because I'm here telling this story now. But my goodness, this is the roller coaster ride it took me on. And that is sort of the framework for how this tale gets told. And I really appreciated that formatting. And I really liked, because it's like, it's a story I'm familiar with. This isn't an unknown story where we don't know the ending, right? There's not going to be this big surprise, big reveal. But the journey is new. And the way it was told let that journey feel like we're acknowledging we know the outcome, but let's focus on the moment. And I love that. I love that. So if you like horror novels, if you are not sensitive to the, trigger warnings of this book, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed reading it. I enjoyed the journey it took me on. And if I didn't have a massive to-read list, I would absolutely read it again. So that is my 2 cents about The Butcher's Daughter without giving away spoilers. Did my best on that one. I think I managed it, especially since it's based on pre-existing works, right? So if you have read The Butcher's Daughter, let me know in the comments what you thought of it also. And I guess with that, I am done for the day. I'll see y'all real soon. And until then, stay inspired by everyone. Take care.